So let's talk about academia. We tend to picture it as this noble quest for truth. But for so many people on the inside, it feels less like a calling and more like, well, like walking a tightrope over a huge pit of burnout and uncertainty. Today, we're going to dig into why this supposed dream job is becoming a really tough, often unsustainable reality.
I think this George Carlin quote just nails it, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of what we're talking about today. See, most of the anger and frustration you hear from academics, it doesn't come from people who don't believe in the mission. It comes from people who believed in it so much, and now they're just profoundly disappointed by the reality. It's the perfect way to look at this whole thing.
All right, so here's the plan. We're going to start with this core identity crisis. Is academia a calling or a job? Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what's called the precarity pipeline and the burnout that follows. We'll even explore how passion itself can be kind of weaponized. And then we'll finish up by looking at how people can survive it and how the system itself might be fixed. Okay, let's jump right into that central conflict. Is what you do as an academic a higher calling, this special devotion to finding the truth? Or, when you get right down to it, is it just a job, with bosses and budgets and deadlines? This right here really shows the two faces of academic life. On one hand, you have that beautiful ideal, right? The pure pursuit of knowledge. But on the other hand, a lot of academics will tell you that the whole "it's a calling" line gets used by the higher-ups to justify asking for more and more unpaid work. It becomes this convenient excuse, and your own passion starts to feel like it's being used against you.
And look, this isn't just some philosophical debate. It has very real, very serious consequences. For a huge number of people starting their careers, the path forward isn't a stable ladder they can climb. Instead, it's what researchers are calling the precarity pipeline.
Okay, so what is precarity? Let's get clear on this. It's not just about having a temporary gig. It's this constant, gnawing state of insecurity. You're always uncertain about your job, your next paycheck, your entire future, really. It's being stuck in a cycle of short-term contracts with no clear path forward and not a lot of security.
And this isn't just a definition in a textbook. It's the day-to-day reality for so many early career researchers, or ECRs. A study from the London School of Economics found that you have incredibly qualified people stuck on hourly contracts with no idea what happens next. They constantly feel like they're racing against the clock. And what's worse, the advice they get from senior professors is often totally out of date for the modern job market. And if you're a researcher on a visa, that insecurity gets multiplied like tenfold.
Wow. This quote, it just hits hard. An expiry date. Imagine feeling like your entire career has an expiration date stamped on it. It turns this noble pursuit of knowledge into this frantic, desperate race against time, not just to do good work, but to find another gig before your clock runs out. So you take that relentless pressure and you mix it with this deep instability? Well, what do you get? You get a perfect storm for burnout. And we can actually break down the psychological toll using a couple of really useful models from workplace psychology. First up is something called effort-reward imbalance. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's when you are pouring absolutely everything you have into your work, the long hours, the mental energy, but the rewards just don't match up. We're talking salary, job security, or even just basic recognition. A German study found this is a huge predictor of whether a postdoc will just decide to leave academia for good.
The second piece of the puzzle is called job threat stress. Now, an Australian study made a really important point here. This is not your typical "I'm so busy at work" kind of stress. No, this is something way more corrosive. It's that feeling of being completely overwhelmed, constantly hassled, and, this is the critical part, feeling like you have zero control over your work or your career.
And the effect of all this stress? It is massive. That same study in Australia found that these specific job stressors could explain a whopping 61% of the problems academics had with work-life conflict. That's a direct, powerful line connecting the job structure to the personal toll it takes.
And the personal cost? It can be absolutely devastating. This quote from a female academic lays out the impossible choices people are facing. For her first 2 children, her job was so unstable she was afraid to take maternity leave. She thought she'd lose her job. It wasn't until her 3rd child that she finally had a permanent contract and felt safe enough. Imagine that.
And all of this leads us to maybe the most insidious part of the problem. It's how the very passion that drives researchers in the first place can be twisted and used as a weapon against them. So yeah, what's love got to do with it? In this kind of high-stress, low-security world, what actually happens to that passion? Is it a shield that protects you, or does it become something else entirely? Well, at first, passion is everything. It's the fuel in the tank. A really interesting study of Italian universities calls it a powerful motivational trigger. It's what drives your curiosity, that deep desire to discover something new. It's the engine that makes all the sacrifices seem worth it.
But then something shifts. That internal drive starts to become an external expectation. It becomes a cultural standard you have to live up to. As this quote suggests, being in love with research is held up as the pure, noble reason for doing the job, which is subtly contrasted with, wanting to be paid fairly for your work.
And here's the dangerous flip side. That passion becomes a tool for exploitation. It gets used as an immaterial reward to make up for low pay or bad working conditions. The message is basically, hey, you get to do what you love, so you should be happy to do this extra work for free, right? It turns your greatest motivation into your biggest weakness. So when you're up against these huge systemic pressures, the obvious question is, how on earth do you survive? What can one person actually do to protect their own sanity and find any kind of balance in this whole mess?
Well, the research points to a few key survival strategies. On a really practical level, it's about setting boundaries. Actually turning off email notifications, learning how to say no, getting stuff out of your head and onto a to-do list. But it's also about your mindset. Things like finding your people, other colleagues who get it, and actively refusing to get sucked into that toxic culture of comparing yourself to everyone else. And of course, recognizing that getting professional help isn't a weakness. It's a smart move.
But look, let's be honest. All those individual strategies are basically like patching holes on a leaky boat. They're important, they can keep you afloat, but they're not going to fix the boat. For real, lasting change, the institutions have to fix the very system that's causing all the leaks.
So what does that look like? Well, across all the studies, a few key ideas keep coming up. Things like creating clear, transparent career paths instead of just an endless string of temporary contracts. Providing real support, like mentoring programs that are actually designed by early career researchers for early career researchers. And of course, building a better culture with family-friendly policies and promotion criteria that don't punish people for having a life. Honestly, even just handling contracts and paying people on time would make a world of difference.
And that really brings us to the final, most important point. This is so much bigger than an employment issue. Think about it. Academia is one of humanity's main engines for creating knowledge and solving our biggest problems. The researchers, the academics, they are the fuel for that engine. And so the real question we have to leave you with is this. If we keep burning out our best and brightest, what does that mean for the future of knowledge itself?